bus. As I continued to walk down the road, I saw a vehicle parked up on the side of the road. The first thing that sort of brought my attention to it was I heard the car engine running, but I couldn't see any lights on, which I thought was a little bit strange. But I don't know, I just got a very bad feeling from it, so I crossed the road and the car sort of flashed its lights and turned its engine on. I do remember feeling the impact, just being completely winded. When it first hit me, I don't even know if I made any sound, I think barely. It then sort of reversed straight back over the same area until it was completely over my body. I just felt completely crushed, like as if you were in a vice, but instead, it was a car on a pavement.
And where does it hurt?
Everywhere. The car stopped and took me out.
Yeah.
But then me again. She ran over me.
He ran over you again?
Yeah.
He ran over you twice?
Yeah. And I really hurt.
Amazingly, Kate made a full recovery and was able to describe in some detail the vehicle which ran over her. It was a white people carrier with blacked out windows, and the passenger side wing mirror was broken.
We found that the CCTV that was available showed a white people carrier following the bus. We also see from the CCTV after Kate's attack that the white people carrier speeds away from the scene.
The CCTV footage was sent to imagery experts who were able to identify the vehicle as a Toyota Previa. Belfield owned this at the time of Kate's attack. It matched her description, even down to the damaged wing mirror. And when detectives viewed CCTV of Amelie and Marsha's journeys home, a terrifying pattern emerged. In both cases, vehicles could be seen targeting the women. And those vehicles could be linked to Belfield. By 2005, the Metropolitan Police had compelling evidence against Belfield and the way he operated, but detectives in Surrey were only just beginning to build their case. On the 6th of July, he was interviewed for the first time about Millie's murder.
He's physically quite a large individual, but he was quite quietly spoken. He was polite, by and large. He would refer to me as sir.
I think it's very important not to be intimidated in any way. But yes, always in your mind, you know that you're interviewing a very dangerous individual. Part of our strategy is to ask the question that everybody wants to ask Levi Belfield. Did you, Levi Belfield, have anything to do with the kidnap and murder of Millie Dowler?
No comment.
We gave him many opportunities to stand up and say, look, I'm an innocent man, I'm not responsible for doing this.
But you didn't deny it?
No comment.
You didn't say, it's not me?
No comment.
And at no stage over the last 2 days have you denied any involvement in these offences?
No comment.
Why is that, Levi?
No comment.
I think if he was a truly innocent man, he would probably been able to give us some explanation for where he was and what he was doing that particular day. But he never took that opportunity.
At the conclusive interview, when we put everything that we had to him, it was extremely compelling to watch Levi Belfield's demeanour.
I can remember quite clearly that at one stage during that interview that he started to perspire quite heavily. He then took off his sweater and he was sitting sort of quite squarely on the seat he had initially. And as Sarah continued to ask him the questions, he started to sort of rock back in the chair to the point where he was actually leaning on the wall behind him, so he actually had nowhere else to go.
His behaviour indicated to me that he was exceptionally uncomfortable with the line of questioning.
When I came out of the interview, I was convinced as I could be that he was the right man and that he was responsible. Unfortunately, back in 2005, we weren't in a position to charge him. But I knew the inquiry wouldn't stop just because we'd interviewed him. It wasn't the end of the inquiry, it wasn't the last roll of the dice. And we knew that we would keep plugging away, and that's what we did.
With Belfield refusing to talk, detectives began questioning the people who knew him best. A key witness was Emma Mills, his long-term girlfriend in 2002. He'd been living in her flat at the time of Millie's abduction.
Emma Mills, tell me what she was able to tell you.
She was obviously able to confirm that they had been living at 24 Collingwood Place. But at the time Millie went missing, she, the children and Levi were actually house-sitting away from Collingwood Place. So she was able to tell us that the apartment was empty over those few days. She was able to tell us that on the Thursday that Millie went missing, she didn't know where Levi Belfield was. And in her mind, that was unusual. She believed that for that day he'd disappeared. Those were her exact words.
It wasn't until later that night that Belfield finally showed up.
She said that he came home about sort of 11 o'clock on the evening of the 21st, and she believed that he'd changed his clothes from the clothes that he'd gone out in earlier that day. Now, they went to bed, and she said that he got up between 3 and 4 o'clock that morning and said that he wanted to go back to Collingwood Place for a lie-in. So he then got up out of their bed, got dressed, took their little dog, and, according to him, was going back to Collingwood Place.
The following day, Belfield moved the family out of Collingwood Place, despite there still being 2 months left on the tenancy agreement.
The actual home that he wanted Emma to go back to, she describes as a squat. It didn't have any kitchen cupboards, it didn't have any kitchen floors. It was a mess. You would not take young children back to live in a place like that. But he was determined. I mean, it was so bad, they actually had to sleep on sofa cushions.
During the move, Emma noticed some of their things were missing.
She'd asked Belfield, what did you do with our sheets? And he'd said, well, the dog messed on the bed. Now, Emma knew her dog. She knew that that dog didn't mess on the bed. So again, she was questioning what he had been doing. And she wasn't happy, or she didn't believe what he was saying. But she was asking again, what were you doing on the 21st? And Belfield's response to her was, what do you think I've done, Millie? And Emma Mills describes her own personal reaction to that as complete and utter disgust. Why would you joke about something like that? And I don't even think at that point when she was asking him, she was expecting him to come back with that response. She thought he'd had another woman in the flat, not that he'd killed Millie Dowler.
They could now link Belfield to where Millie was last seen, and through Emma, knew he was acting strangely around the time of her abduction. Speaking to another ex-partner gave them their next clue.
I've been involved with horses all my life, and as a child my dad used to take us to shows, and then when I got older I started doing show jumping more.
One of the events Joanna would regularly compete in was the Yateley Horse Show in Hampshire.
Levi knew about the woods from coming to Yateley Show with me and my horses. He came probably 5 or 6 times with me, and then we'd walk our dogs probably about the same amount of times, 5 or 6 times, around the common in the woods.
Detectives asked Joanna to show them where the couple had walked. Without realising, she led them to the area where Millie's remains had been discovered.
You can't understand his mentality because his pleasure is other people's pain. That is how he works. But why would you want to do that sort of thing to a young girl?
The evidence against Belfield was mounting up, but they still needed to prove he'd been on Station Avenue at the time of Millie's abduction. Again, Emma Mills was able to help.
We obviously spoke to Emma Mills at great length, and we basically started to unpick their lives. We wanted to know everything about them, and from our conversations with Emma, she told us that at that time they had a red Daewoo Nexia, which Levi had possession of on the 21st of March 2002.
Okay, and what did you do next?
We went back to the bird's eye CCTV and we looked to see if we could see that vehicle in Station Avenue at the time that Millie went missing.
And they found this. It's a red Daewoo Nexia, turning off the street leading to Collingwood Place. The time is 4:33, just 25 minutes after Millie was last seen.
You must have felt almost like you'd won the lottery.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we saw that, we knew that we were starting to build the case, and we desperately wanted to get that vehicle.
But Belfield had reported the car stolen just 8 days after Millie's abduction.
How did you feel when you found out that Belfield had reported that that car was missing, possibly stolen?
We were absolutely gutted that we couldn't get that car and have a look at it, because forensically for us, that could give us some evidence which would link Belfield to Millie Dowler.
Did you believe it?
No. No, we didn't believe it had been stolen.
Despite exhaustive searches, the Daewoo was never found. But appeals for information about its whereabouts uncovered a disturbing development. On the 20th of March 2002, the day before Millie vanished, 11-year-old Rachel Cowles was walking home after school in Upper Halliford, just 3 miles away from Walton-on-Thames.
I'd finished school about 3:15. The roads weren't that busy, stall traffic. A car drove up to the side and stopped, and the guy leant over and said to me, "I've just moved in next door, would you like a lift home?" I know all the neighbours quite well, so it meant that I would have known if someone had moved in or moved out, and something clicked in my head that I shouldn't get into the car.
The incident was reported to Surrey police that day. Rachel described the driver as 30 to 40 years old with a round face and was also able to give specific details of the car. It was a red hatchback and there were 2 child car seats in the back. Emma Mills was able to confirm that in 2002, her Daewoo matched this description.
Why had it not been picked up in the investigation before, and given that it happened just the day before the disappearance of Millie?
Even though it had been reported to Surrey Police as a whole, the day it had actually happened, it hadn't been filtered through to the incident room on the 21st.
The significant part of this is that it puts the car and the person who owned the car out driving through local streets, looking to pick up a young girl.
Yes, absolutely. But the significance of the red car wasn't known until we'd spoken to Emma Mills. It made the attempt to abduct Rachel the day before hugely significant.
Meanwhile, detectives in London had gathered enough evidence for their cases. And by May 2006, Levi Belfield had been charged with the murders of Amélie Delagrange, Marcia McDonnell, and the attempted murder of Kate Sheedy. He denied any involvement.
Too many similarities, Levi. Too many similarities for the question not to be asked, and for you not to say why.
No comment.
No comment, because you can't say anything, can you?
But the Crown Prosecution Service asked that further work be carried out before deciding if Belfield could be charged with Millie's murder.
This case has always been a circumstantial case. We've never had any direct forensic evidence to show that Belfield killed Millie Dowler. So we had to work very hard to prove that he was the only person that could have killed her. So we had to rule out every other possibility. It's painstaking work and it is old-fashioned detective work. And I look at it as a jigsaw puzzle, and you never really know at what point you put that final piece in until it slots into place.
At this point, how certain are you that Levi Belfield is the man?
I was probably 98% sure that we were looking at the person that had killed Millie.
On the 25th of February 2008, Belfield was found guilty of the murders of Amélie Delagrange and Marcia McDonnell, and the attempted murder of Kate Sheedy. He was given 3 whole life terms, meaning he will never be released.
there was a